Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. So welcome back to my little video series on the gardening books that I enjoy reading. So here I've gone through my books that I really enjoy for the prairie garden climate, and I've also gone through some books that I enjoy for more eco-friendly gardening and native plant growing. But I have 3 more books, and they don't fit into necessarily a particular category, but they're 3 books that I still enjoy and I still think are really important to share with you. And so I'm going to do that in this video. Off this back corner of my display is the Illustrated Guide to Gardening in Canada. This is the Reader's Digest version. This book actually was my grandmother's, my mom's book. And in a lot of ways, I think this is why it's one of my favorites. It does have a lot of fabulous information in it. Not all of it is pertinent to where I live. Probably better for gardeners that are growing in probably zone 5 and warmer. Has a lot of great information in there. It has a lot of information. Now obviously these weather maps aren't entirely up to date anymore, but I think they're still pretty close, even though this book was published. See if I can find it. 1978. This book is as old as I am. It has lots of great information, and what I like about it is this type of section here. So it's broken down into different areas, and it lists just a ton of plants. So this one is ground covers, and it has little drawings. I find these drawings not overly helpful to help identify the plant, but it has a little bit of a description, the different zones they're in, and a little bit about growing them. Here is some trees, conifers, yeah. We'll go through that. These drawings can be a little bit more helpful. This is talking about pruning. And there is an area in here. There's an area about growing under artificial light and a whole area about greenhouses and setting up a greenhouse. There's house plants, but where is it? There's tons of information. I'll show you this. Very specific information for vegetables, and when I first got into vegetable gardening, this was one of my favorite references for going to, and actually I quite often do go back to this book for vegetable gardening. It has great information on how to grow things, different ways of trellising plants and that for in your vegetable garden. Lots of great information for growing vegetables. But there's also an area here, plant disorders. It goes through and identifies a lot of different diseases and pest problems that you can find with plants, and gives you a little bit of a picture. Again, it's kind of a drawing and not always super clear, but usually I can go through here and read things and find out, and it will give you a little bit of a brief description of what you can do to help remedy the problem. Now this book, like I said, is many decades old, and so a lot of the solutions found in here are not organic solutions. This is back when, you spray the chemicals on and you spray them on heavy. And so that is one thing that I don't appreciate about this book, but it is good still to find the information about what I'm dealing with. And then I can search that up further in other areas to find maybe a more nature-friendly way of dealing with it. But lots of great information in this book still, even after all these decades. This is my newest gardening book. I actually received this for Christmas this year. It's called Dream Plants for the Natural Garden by Piet Odulf and Henk Gerritsen. Now, I actually haven't gotten through this entire book yet, but I can see this as being a book I go back to many times. It's really interesting just to read their write-up on the different plants. So they've broken this up into 3 main sections. So this first section is tough. This is all those tough plants, but then playful plants. So these are the plants that are going to spread themselves around just a little bit more in your yard and in your space. They're going to self-seed a little bit more, but they're still controllable, and they're still worth growing for gardeners who have the time and ability to do a little bit of extra work to keep them under control. So again, they go through the different, you know, plants that way. They do talk about different color schemes and heights and textures and things in this book as well. And I find they're quite opinionated in their write-up about the different plants, but it's still very, it's interesting to read their write-ups. And then they have the invasive plants. So this is a good one to know. You know, some people still want to grow these plants, but this is, you're going to know what you're getting into if you're growing these plants. And so there will be like, you know, like here there's anemones listed, and there might be anemones listed, different varieties in other parts of this book that are more, you know, easier to control or just a little bit playful. And then there's the anemones listed in the back here that are invasive. So they really spread the plants out that way, but they give you a good listing of the zones and the heights, when they're going to spread when they're going to bloom, if they have blooms on them, and the kind of light conditions they need, and just a little write-up listing a few different cultivars. And so I find it interesting. And then they do have, if I can find one, so they have little sections like this, Food for All, where they're going through and talking about some specific plants, maybe for feeding the wildlife or whatever. I haven't actually read this little section here, but they'll have little write-ups that are more specific to just a few plants, and a specific feature or focus for those plants. So I like reading those little things in there too. Lots of gorgeous photography, and it can show you the juxtaposition of some of the plants with each other, which is always great to see. So a fun book. Like I said, I haven't read through this whole book, but I can already tell that it's going to be one of my favorites that I want to go back to and reference again and again. When you're done with this video, why don't you stop over and check out some of the other books that I like to read. I have videos on those as well. Check the link up above, or I'll put it in the description down below. And this is another book I've had for, I'm going to guess, a decade. Close to it probably, because I'm pretty sure I bought this when it first came out, and this was published in 2012. So this is called Potted Up by Frankie Flowers, and it just has tons. It does have a little bit, I guess, at the beginning here. I should show you. It's all about container gardening, so it has a little bit of a write-up about things that you need to consider when container gardening, and the different types of containers that you use, and you know, the positives and negatives of each of those. Just, you know, just a little bit of information like choosing colors, or you know, your thriller, filler, spiller type information. I think there's even a spot in here that goes through some of his favorites, and you know, considerations for like watering or light control or whatever for the different for when you're growing in a container. So this book is a little bit interesting in the way that he just chose one pot, one size, a plastic pot. I forget if it's like, I think it's like 15 inches or something. It's not a huge pot. It's a good sized pot, but not huge. And he just puts together lots of different combinations of plants. So, well, of course I turned to this beautiful page here, but he'll have, see, like there's the pot combination here, and then he'll go through, you know, just kind of the attributes of that pot and the plants that are in it, and the plants that are, and which plants he has in it and how many. So he has specific variety name and how many are in it. So these little flowers on the side here, that tells you how many of that type of plant he put in there. So there's 3 violas in this container here on this side. It's great. I love this book for inspiration. He goes through spring, and he also tells you the light and how much water they need. But he goes through spring, and then he has summer. Let's see. So he has some summer things, and he has autumn. Let's see if I can find an autumn one for you here. The summer section is the largest. So here, this is a late summer, fall, and then he'll go fall, early winter. And then he even has a small section in here to give you inspiration for us northern gardeners who can't really grow a lot through the winter, but we still want to have some pretty pot displays. And he has, I don't know, must be at least half a dozen different pot displays and how to put them together. So, and again, he'll list, you know, like if you want a birch stem, this pot has 2 of them in it. Has 2 sugar pine cones, you know, so it helps you to know and gives you a little bit of information about helping you to keep the containers going through their season for each season in the book. So I enjoy this book. I use it more for inspiration. I don't know if I've ever 100% copied one of his combinations. And some of them, he relies heavily on, like he puts a lot of shrubs in his containers. And that's not something I really want to do here. Shrubs are expensive. And a lot of the shrubs can't just be popped out into my climate here in Zone 3. It's just, they're not going to survive. So either I'm left with a shrub that I'm trying to overwinter, which isn't always the easiest to find a space for a shrub to overwinter because they need, you know, often a cool space but still some light. It's not an easy thing to do. So I don't always 100% copy things, but I do use them for inspiration, and you know, I can see the form and the color combinations that I like and try and work from that. So I do like to look back at this and have an idea. Let's get some ideas. So this is the last video in my What Garden Books I Like to Read series. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hopefully it's given you some inspiration for some new books that you might want to read as well. Don't forget to comment down below and let me know what garden books you love, because we all as gardeners need new inspiration once in a while, and especially books with beautiful eye candy and photos inside to keep us geared up for the season ahead. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.